the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.
For the first hit. Rutschman into right field. Down the line. A fair ball. Adley will turn first. Head for second. He's going to turn second. Go for third. Rutschman into third base standing. An extra base hit. His first hit in the major leagues. Welcome to the...
These are long pitch innings, I think. Blister, that's what you wanted to make sure.
Here's a high fly ball into right. Back is Betts on the move. On the track. He's got catch by Mookie Betts.
Now, Clifford looking for a clean inning here in the seventh.
Hit well out to right center field. Jones still on the move, running out of room, and he makes it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome
Powered by
back
Riverside
to Beyond the
FM.
Ballpark. As always, I'm your host, Patrick Moran, alongside Brendan Cunningham. Of course, we are recapping the trade deadline that was. The deadline was officially on July 31st, and there were a ton of moves that went down, so we're not going to break down everything, but we do have some kind of takeaway, activities and, ideas here for winners, losers, and then some superlatives about everything that went down during this deadline. But before we dive into all that stuff, Brendan, how are you doing? It hasn't been that long since we last checked in.
No, just talked last Monday, but a lot went on. Obviously, trade deadline happened. That's like one of the biggest days of the MLB season. So yeah, a lot of deals went done. I'm not feeling great though because the Red Sox didn't do what I wanted, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, it's disappointing for the Orioles that that they were sellers. We didn't expect to be in this spot, but we pretty much got rid of all the rentals and then a few pieces that had some control. But we didn't quite expect we didn't think we were going to get an offer for, that player, and we just felt it was too good to pass up. It kind of felt like. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the roster's gone in terms of the Orioles. Ramon Urias to Houston, Ryan O'Hearn to San Diego, Ramon Laureano to San Diego, same deal. Cedric Mullins to New York, Gregory Soto, Seranthony Dominguez. We talked about them last episode. Go check that out. But it's a new look team, no doubt. It feels a lot different, but I think we just got to move forward, forget this year happened, kind of recoup, and yeah, that's all that can be said. But Red Sox, I know you vocalized before we started recording that you were disappointed, and like you said, I know we're going to get into that later. There's only 2 moves. Pretty shocking, I would say.
I mean, yeah, you look at every single. Before the deadline, I think everyone was thinking Red Sox are going to do something. They're on the cusp. They could win the American League East. They make the right moves. They need a starting pitcher, some bullpen help, maybe a first baseman. There were, like if you went through every single starting pitcher, you looked up their name, you went to the news before the trade deadline, you would see like Red Sox interested. You just count them like Joe Ryan, Sandy Alcantara, Merrill Kelly, Mitch Keller, like all the best starting pitchers in the market. Red Sox were all linked to them somehow. And they just didn't get any of them. So it was really disappointing. I thought it was going to be a good deadline. I thought we were really going to push to make this team better, but Craig had other plans, and it's not good.
What was I going to say? There was the glorious 2 minutes of Joe Ryan on the Red Sox.
Oh,
Want
my
to tell the
gosh.
listeners how that was?
Yeah, I was watching like a live stream, and it was like Yahoo Sports misread a tweet from a MLB insider, and they thought it said that the Red Sox traded for Joe Ryan. So then the Yahoo Sports then posted on their X page, on the Twitter page, whatever, Joe Ryan traded the Red Sox, which, we were all Red Sox fans, we were shocked. We were, all of a sudden, it was, because that was like at the end of the deadline, we were thinking, this is terrible. All these guys are going, we didn't get anybody. And then, like, okay, this is going to be really good, actually. But then they deleted it, and realized it was a mistake, and then it all just got a lot worse. Um, and then the Dustin May trade that came in, that was kind of the defeat right there. But that was definitely Yahoo Sports got to clean it up.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that, and I'm grateful I didn't go through that. I went through a different type of heartbreak, which I guess is better rather than having a glimpse or a sliver of something so good just for it to go away so soon. But without further ado, we'll get into our post-deadline thoughts. We'll just run through the winners first. So we picked out 5 winners and 5 losers of the deadline in terms of teams. And, we'll just go rapid fire, get some thoughts, talk about teams that we want to talk about. But for me, I said the winners were the San Diego Padres, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Seattle Mariners, and the state of Texas. So both the Astros and the Rangers, I thought, did a really good job. And for me, those are my, 5 best deadlines overall.
Okay, I don't hate that. I had the Seattle Mariners, the New York Mets, San Diego Padres, Baltimore Orioles, and Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay, so where we went different was you had the Orioles and Mets. I had the Astros and the Rangers. So I guess for me, the interesting thing was I didn't include sellers in the winners category, as opposed to you. Like, you appreciated the fact that the Orioles, fully sold and they just committed to a plan. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
I mean, yeah, I think it's the worst for a team and the fan and everybody involved if a team is bad and they don't sell. They have players they can get rid of, and you'll see that later in my losers that I have teams that could have sold but they didn't. So I value a team that gets rid of their guys when it's time. And I think the Orioles did a great job. They did a lot of guys on expiring contracts that they had to get rid of on rentals. They got rid of them. I think they did an amazing job. I mean, I get interested to see on your thoughts of this, but I feel very good. They got a haul back from the Padres, and it was like 6 players. But I really do think that's a really good move for the Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, they sold, and they sold pretty hard. It was a tough day, emotionally, as a fan. I mean, Cedric Mullins gone. He's the longest tenured Oriole, still on the roster. And then they just traded him for 3 pitching prospects. O'Hearn was a really nice guy to have around, and he's also gone. Ramon Laureano, the production that he had was great. He left. Who else? I'm blanking, even though I got it right in front of me. Charlie Morton was gone. He had actually kind of turned his season around after a really rough start. And Ramon Urias, a guy that I didn't expect to get traded, was gone. And I think that might have been it, if I'm not mistaken. Andrew Kittredge was gone. I mean, relievers are just relievers. That's always going to be the market. But unfortunately, we didn't get to move Zach Eflin. He was placed on the injured list on the 31st, so that kind of just killed any trade value he might have had. But, there was a lot of guys that came back, a lot of good pitching prospects. We got Jerron Watts-Brown, I believe, from the Blue Jays for Anthony Dominguez a little bit earlier, rather than just the actual deadline day. He's been performing pretty well in Double-A as a starter. I'm hoping that he turns into something. There were a lot more prospects came in. Boston Bateman, Tyson Neighbors, or big names that came over from the Padres in exchange for Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn. I did not expect we were going to get that many guys from the Padres for those two. I knew that the Padres wanted to lengthen the lineup, but the fact that we got 6 players for 2 guys, pretty insane, and we were selling them at peak value. Crazy. I was just hoping to see the return as soon as I heard the news, and just kept refreshing the feed. And then Cedric Mullins, he got traded for some interesting pitching prospects. It's emotional, but all you have to do if you're the Orioles is move forward, get better, and I'm hoping they do that. They got to recoup in the offseason, get some starters. That's a different conversation, but the deadline is certainly part of kind of a retool. They were even able to move Charlie Morton for a decent pitching prospect, which, was pretty good. So, yeah, it was a tough deadline, but I think hopefully it's for the better.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be very beneficial for the Orioles.
Some of the other stuff here, was there any other team you want to talk about, or any other team you were intrigued in my side?
Who'd you have the Texas? I usually say about the Rangers. I know they had
the Texas teams.
Merrill Kelly, but what else do you like there?
Yeah. I think it was just really the Merrill Kelly move. Like, you mentioned it before the show that he was the only name, or like he was kind of the big name starting pitcher that ultimately got moved. And while it's just one, I think it's a pretty impactful move that the Rangers made. They also beefed up the bullpen a little bit. That's something that they've had trouble with. They got a Danny Coulomb from Minnesota. They got a Phil Maton from Texas. I mean, those guys are pretty solid relievers that they're just going to be able to throw into the pen right now. And if you're going to poke a hole in anything, it's the bullpen for Texas. And then they went out, got Merrill Kelly. I just liked the aggressiveness. I mean, he's having a pretty solid season. I mean, 3.22 ERA in 23 starts, 134 in the third innings. Like, he's just a good pitcher. And I know that he's 36 and it's only a rental. But the Rangers, I feel like, saw an opportunity to go get better for this year. And they saw an opportunity to maybe sneak into the playoffs. And I feel like the moves that they made were good enough for that. And I feel pretty confident about them making the playoffs, even though I kind of want the Red Sox to make it at the same time. But the Red Sox didn't do enough.
That is a great point. The Red Sox didn't do enough. But, yeah, I mean, Merrill Kelly was the best starting pitcher to go on the market. He might have been even the best starting pitcher in the market if you want to argue that maybe like Joe Ryan wasn't really available. So they got that arm, veteran arm, who has a good season. I think it is a good deal. Does that anything else you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I mean, just to talk more about the pitchers that didn't get moved. Like, we didn't see Sandy Alcantara on the move. We didn't see Edward Cabrera on the move. Both of them being Marlins. That was a little interesting, but those two do have control, so I understand it. We didn't see Joe Ryan get moved, to your point. Charlie Morton got moved, but Merrill Kelly's way better. Who else didn't get
Dustin May.
Oh, Dustin May got moved, yeah, but Merrill Kelly's better. Zach Gallen didn't get moved. Merrill Kelly's teammate.
Mitch Keller.
That was a bit interesting. Mitch Keller didn't get moved. That was interesting. I mean, I know he's been floated for like a year or two now, but he's always a guy that feels like he's going to be in that rumor mill. I really do believe, to your point, that Merrill Kelly was the best name on the move. And Rangers got him. And I appreciate them going all in. They made some nice complementary moves as well as a impactful starting pitching move. And they didn't give up a ton. I feel like that's a pretty solid deadline.
Absolutely. Should we move on to losers, or is there?
I mean, we'll just hit on these other teams.
Teams, okay.
We both mentioned the Padres, the Phillies, and the Mariners, correct?
Yeah, I think those just three teams that did the right thing and buying. They just made I think the biggest moves.
Yeah, I mean, Mariners. You gotta love the fact that they got the Diamondbacks corner infield, both Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Amazing. I mean, all we've wanted the Mariners to do is get offense, And that's exactly what they did. They got a guy who's hitting, 35 home runs, 35 plus. I'm going to double check the number. But, I mean, they kind of jump started the market getting a Josh Naylor. He came in pretty early. And then they went out and got a Eugenio Suarez, which was pretty amazing, too. And there's some familiarity there with Seattle. Both of them are rentals, so they're going to be gone at the end of the year. But you gotta love Seattle going for it. It's just it's a likable team overall, and especially with the pitching staff that they have. This is what we want them to do. And they went out and they got the big bats available. I mean, yeah, 36 home runs for Eugenio Suarez. Mariners have been dying for that for years, it feels like.
Yeah, I feel like they make a move like this every deadline. They always try to get that bat from a team, and then sometimes it works out for them, sometimes doesn't. I'm interested to hear, what do you think now with these two big names on the team? What do you think the ceiling is for the Mariners? Because right now they're the third team in the wild card. They're a game ahead of Texas. What do you think is like the ceiling for this?
I think after these moves, there's a chance that they could make a play for the division. I mean, you have Houston there. I'm gonna just pull this up. Houston 62-49, Seattle 3.5 games out. Texas is there. I kind of view Texas more of a wild card team, but I think if Seattle can really get hot, they can overtake the Astros just with how good the pitching is. So I do love that in that aspect for the Mariners overall.
Yeah.
But I'll get into the Phillies with later. Padres, I mean, they just went berserk. I mean, you mentioned the Padres a little bit, or we talked about them with O'Hearn and Laureano. They just emptied the tank, which was kind of crazy in terms of the farm system.
Wow, I mean, it was AJ Preller does what AJ Preller does, and that's just empty the farm system into win now. I feel like one of the years going to happen. I mean, they just it felt like when it was happening, it was just like Padres made another deal, another deal, another deal. And it was kind of pissing me off because I was wanting the Red Sox to do something. And the Padres over here are getting everything gone on the market.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. AJ Preller, he's a different animal. I mean, Mason Miller, Ramon Laureano, Ronald Hearn. There was another bullpen guy I'm forgetting.
They got JP Sears. They're probably going to start.
Yeah.
They got Nestor Cortez too.
Nestor Cortez.
Yeah.
I mean, Mason Miller was like one of the best relievers in the game last year.
Yep.
He was ridiculous. I feel like they had another move. They had another bullpen on they got. Maybe I'm crazy. But, yeah, I mean, I got to give credit. They want to win now. Not a lot of GMs are as ballsy as AJ Preller, and I kind of respect it. What do you think?
He depleted the farm. He got rid of a Leo DeVries, who's a consensus top 10 prospect in the game for Mason Miller. But like you said, you got to respect it. The whole farm system's gone. I would have loved to seen what happened in the minor league system and how they filled the rosters in San Diego. But at the end of the day, it's prospects. Just screw that and go win. And that's what AJ Preller does. He's just one of those guys. Like you said, he's a maniac. Last but not least, you mentioned the Mets. We haven't really touched on the Mets, and you had them on your list. I like that shout because I think they probably would have been number 6, maybe even number 5 over Houston, now that I'm rethinking it. You can talk about a little bit about the Mets deadline and what they did that you liked.
I'll start with the bullpen. I think they got Tyler Rogers, was a great setup man, and I think a lot of people thought maybe he wasn't on the market. But they secured him, and they also got one of the best relievers on the market, Ryan Helsley, who's was one of the best last year, still good this year. I think another great pickup, and then Gregory Soto too. Not as big as name as those guys, but still not bad. Another Well, another arm, that's what you really want. I always emphasize how important bullpen gets in the playoffs, and that's where this team wants to get to. That's where they're going to really need them. Just, maybe just throw an inning in the NLDS. It's so crucial to have all these arms is going to be great for them. And then Cedric Mullins, another one of the best outfielders on the market. I think it's exactly what they needed. I know we had them both going to the Phillies, but probably won't in that moment. We probably could have said Mets would have been a great fit too. He's just a good fit in New York. So I think all those moves are really good for them. I would have liked maybe a starting pitcher, but still, these are good moves.
Yeah, I agree. So move on to the losers. This is a harder conversation to have because I don't like to be negative. I don't know about you, but it is part of the job in this exercise. On my losers list, I had the Brewers, the Angels, the Red Sox, the Pirates, and then kind of I put down the Cubs and the Tigers kind of for the same reason. So I'll bunch them in the same conversation.
I had the Red Sox, Braves, Cubs, Angels, and Brewers.
Okay. So you had, what was the only different thing? You had the Braves,
Yeah.
and I didn't have the Braves.
Who'd you have? It was the
I kind of did or did you
oh,
have the Pirates on yours?
I didn't have the Pirates.
Okay. You said the Brewers, Angels, Red Sox. I know that. And
Yeah.
then you
And then
had the Braves. Who was your fifth team?
I had the Cubs.
Cubs. Okay. Yeah, I had the Cubs. So it was really the Braves versus Pirates conversation. Is that it?
Yeah. Braves versus
Yeah.
Pirates.
I think I thought about the Braves because they did, little to nothing. What did they do? Their only move was like Rafael Montero, I think. Yeah. They traded Rafael Montero to Detroit. And that was basically it. So that's fair. I think for me personally, they didn't have much to do. Like, a lot of the core is just there and under contract. And at the end of the day, what were they truly going to get for Marcell Ozuna if they did move him? So, yeah, I think for me, it was tough to put them in that conversation. But, yeah, I'll let you talk about the Braves for a minute.
I just think for the Braves, you sure you would have got much for Marcell Ozuna, but I think it would have been worth it to get rid of him. I feel like after not even making any big deals, it just kind of sets the season as a wash. And that's kind of the second year straight where the season's a wash because last year obviously injuries, and this year isn't going as well as they thought. So just to make nothing, not even try to get better, maybe trying to plan for next year or stuff like that, just to do nothing, I think is the worst thing for the Braves. I would like seeing something because obviously the team you have right now isn't working. You're gonna have to make some changes, and some kind of deal would have been great. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, for me, I didn't feel like they had a ton of assets. But it is frustrating to kind of just see your team sit on their hands. And that's kind of what Atlanta did. That's what you're kind of saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's a fair point. I said the Pirates just because the Pirates were active, I would say, but I didn't feel like they really got a ton of quality into that farm system. Like, they traded David Bednar for a decent, catcher in Rafael Flores. I know that some in the industry are like him, but outside of him, there wasn't really much else. Like, it was kind of just peanuts, and then, kind of listening around to what people's reactions were, and then they traded Brian Hayes for Taylor Rogers, and then they flip him again for a prospect. That was weird. Like, the Bailey Falter return was not that good, according to the industry. Like, nobody's really saying good things about what the Pirates did. And they were in a spot where they could have moved some pieces. Like, they could have moved an IKF, they could have moved an Andrew Heaney, and they didn't do either of those things. They just kind of got out from under the Brian Hayes money, and that was basically it. So, yeah, for a team that's not going anywhere, like, they have no bats, they didn't do anything to really expedite the process here. And that is what's frustrating, because the Pirates are just, they're there with Paul Skeens and Jared Jones and Mitch Keller, and they got Bubba Chandler on the way, but they just can't get bats to save their lives. And this deadline did not, didn't improve it. Didn't improve the situation.
I think just the way I feel about it though is, they got rid of Dave Bednar, which I think is a good move for them. Even if the return isn't quite what you want, but Mitch Keller, does have some control, so there's no need to get rid of him right now. So that's not terrible. And I think the Key Brian Hayes is actually a good deal to get off that money. I know people get upset at the Pirates owner for not spending money. To actually get off that, I think is not bad for them, because obviously I think we know by now, Key Brian Hayes is not we thought maybe. So that's not bad. I feel like the team, they didn't have much, and they got rid of Dave Bednar, Mitch Keller. You don't have to get rid of him. It would have been nice. I'm not saying they had a great deadline. They definitely didn't have a good one, but I don't think it's one of the top 5 worst.
Okay. But we had Brewers, we had Angels, we had Red Sox, and we had Cubs. You kind of already, you feel like you've kind of touched on the Red Sox already, right?
Oh my God, I'd go on for hours about the Red Sox, but I feel like I just pretty much said it all about them.
Okay. Brewers, I can talk. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later. Angels, I'll talk about a little bit later. Cubs, you had the Cubs. I'll talk about the Cubs, and then, or no, you talk about the Cubs. I'll talk about the Tigers.
All right. Cubs. Yeah, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand with the Brewers. I don't know if we want to kind of wrap them together, but Cubs are a team. They're second in the entire MLB right now in record. They have a real shot of winning the World Series. That is not a joke at all. If they made the right move, and I think it was getting a starting pitcher, that would be the move to make. Like a Merrill Kelly or someone else. That's the move. This window is right now. I mean, Kyle Tucker, you don't know. I don't think they're going to extend him. They haven't done it yet, so you need to win now. You have all the pieces. You have PCA playing an MVP type season. Kyle Tucker up there right now. He's in Chicago. You got to take advantage of this and get a starting pitcher and try to win the World Series, because that is not a joke for the Cubs. This is their time, and they didn't make. I only traded for some other guys. Willie Castro, utility man, which isn't bad. But if they got a starting pitcher, they could have been elite. They already are elite, but they could have won a World Series, I think. I mean, they still have a chance, but their odds would just gone up if they got the right guy.
Yeah, a lot of good points. I agree with most of what you said. And one thing I'll add is the farm system is one of the best in baseball. It's considered
Absolutely.
in the top echelon. They have a lot of good prospects that they could have moved and traded for maybe a frontline guy. Like, they were rumored in the, Sandy Alcantara mill or the Edward Cabrera mill, and they didn't land either of those guys. It was just kind of lackluster. Like, they didn't really go out and make an aggressive move, and they did improve along the margins. Like, a lot of those, trades are trades that it just kind of rounds out the roster, but we don't want to see that. We want to see the Cubs, get Sandy Alcantara, get an Edward Cabrera, and go make that run like you said. I mean, it's a World Series caliber team, and they didn't do anything to really make themselves that much better. So, yeah, I agree. Tigers, same thing for me. Like, I know we talked about some of the moves on the previous show. We talked about Chris Paddock going to Detroit. Like, yeah, that's a marginal move. He's kind of pitching to a 4.8 right now. And then you got Charlie Morton. I was honestly surprised that a team wanted Charlie Morton. I know he got off to a horrible start, and now he's been a lot better, and it's a veteran presence. You can put him in the bullpen in the postseason. He's gonna help any team he's on get through the regular season. But he's been in the bullpen this year for my Orioles, and he's pitching to a 5.42 still. I guess it's just you're really paying for the experience and the veteran leadership. You got like Paul Sewald, Cal Finnegan for the bullpen, like marginal guys. They can pitch in some leverage, but at the end of the day, like it's not that amazing. I'm not in love with what they did, and it's a tough look. So, yeah, for me, I didn't think the Tigers moved the needle. And this is a team that's been really good, and they're kind of they kind of hit a snag recently, another 5-5 in their last 10. But they're 65-47. They are the best. They're tied for the best record in the American League, and they could have done more to add to an already great squad. They just didn't, and I was hoping for more meat on the bone in terms of what the Tigers were going to do.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I feel like Cubs, Tigers, Brewers, and the Red Sox are just, they fit in that category of, maybe we'll exclude the Red Sox, but all those three teams, some of the best records in the MLB, and they just didn't do really enough to kind of keep ahead with all those teams that are kind of making deals and coming from behind. So it's disappointing for their fan bases, I'm sure. And then the final team is the Brewers. I know we both had them.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the Brewers in a minute. So
Okay, I'll go with the Angels then. I'll give you the Brewers.
okay.
Angels. I mean, we were laughing about it before the show.
Yeah.
It's just like, are we even surprised anymore? I mean, let me pull up the trade for this team because it's just a joke what this team does on a year-to-year basis, every day, really. The Los Angeles Angels just continue to be the dumbest franchise in maybe all of sports. Cause what were these moves?
The moves were Andrew Chafin and Luis Garcia from the Nationals in the same deal, and then it was Oswald Peraza from the Yankees.
Like, are they buying? Like, I don't know what's going on with this team. Like, where do they think they are? I mean, they're 53-57, below 500. How many games back in the wild card? It's called let load. They're 5 games back on wild card. You're basically out of it, Angels. You're not getting ahead. You're not making a jump. I don't know what this team is doing. I mean, we were talking about it. You couldn't win with prime Mike Trout and prime Shohei Ohtani. You can't win. It's not gonna happen. And the fact that they had these other guys like Taylor Ward and even Kenny Jansen, they could move, could get something out of it. That'd be the right thing to do. I mean, obviously the right thing to do is trade Mike Trout, get him out of there, but they're never gonna do that. So those two guys, they couldn't get rid of them, but they said, nah, we're good. We're gonna bring some guys in, who we think we're gonna move the needle, but really we're delusional, and think we can contend for anything, which they aren't, and they're just gonna stay in the middle of the pack. They're not gonna sell. They're not gonna make a bunch of moves that's gonna make them better. They're just gonna stay right at that little below 500. Just keep it interesting. It really, can't imagine if I'm from Anaheim and I root for this team. It sounds torturous.
Yeah, I'll get into some of the moves and trades a little bit later, but just they have no farm system. It feels like they've had none for a while. It's always been one of the worst, it feels like. And it's just like they're not beefing it up. They're not making their future situation better. They just think that they're going to win, and it's not working. It's Einstein's definition of insanity.
Exactly.
You're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, the Angels are just so broken of an organization. It is not even funny. The fact that they're they're barely sniffing a playoff spot, and they're just like, today I'm gonna buy. Like Perry Manasian is a problem, and yeah, they're not doing anything for their team. Like being an Angels fan is literal purgatory. Like the Los Angeles Angels are the definition of purgatory. It is insane. What they do year in and year out needs to be studied. It's just mind-boggling. Every single time they think that they're just going to make noise, and they think that they're this important team, and they're not. They're not in a playoff picture like you mentioned. They are under 500. They're on the outside looking in of a playoff spot. It is ridiculous. And they gave up Jake Eater, and I know he's not, amazing anymore, but he used to be a really good pitching prospect, and you're giving that up for some rentals. You're giving that up for whatever you think. Like, I can't. Come on.
Yeah.
I feel bad for I want to see them win again. I want to see them be good. It's never going to happen. So
I think the only thing that could wake up this organization is a Mike Trout trade request. Even if he doesn't want to get traded, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't. I've seen articles.
No.
He doesn't want to get moved. But if he just requests a trade, it'd be like a slap to the face. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. 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 It's you could really go on a whole rant about the Angels, but we're not here to do that to our glorious Angels fans. If there are any out there, I'd be surprised. But if you are an Angels fan, shout out to you, because I don't know. I don't know how they do it. Anyway, all right, now some superlatives. Because I'll get to the Brewers in a minute. Like I said, so we'll just keep the show moving. Best trade. So our superlatives are best trade, worst trade, surprise move, who cares, and then confusing. So we got 5 superlatives on the docket. Brendan, to kick it off, what was your best move of the deadline? I love that chat. I actually didn't pick that, even though he was the best bat available, and he went to the best spot where he's needed for the offense. So I can totally understand. It's definitely top 3 move at the deadline for me. Maybe some recency bias, because I did see a clip of it the other day of this certain closer rolling out, and it's Yohan Duran to the Philadelphia Phillies. Watching his, closer entrance was just insanity, and it just gives me nightmares thinking about what that could look like in October. It was just the perfect move. The Phillies kind of traded some surplus, and they gave up a Mick Abel, and he was kind of behind Andrew Painter on the pecking order. So Andrew Painter maybe comes into the picture to start whatever they need him to do, even though they don't need Andrew Painter. They don't need any more starters. That rotation is just so good. They gave up some surplus, and then they gave up, Eduardo Tait. He's a really good catching prospect, but he's far off. The Phillies are in win-now mode because the window's kind of closing. For me, I think once Zach Wheeler retires, it's over. So I feel like the Phillies really have to capitalize on this current moment. And Yohan Duran, I feel like, totally does that. He's just such an amazing closer. the whole out entrance, what, like, I forget exactly what it's called, but I think he was the perfect fit. And Philly, it kind of felt like they got their guy, and it's making them a force to be reckoned with come playoff time, and that is scary in an already stacked National League. Uh, you go, because I just went for best move. Yeah, I know you got some personal feelings towards that, being a Red Sox fan, but it is a really not good move, to say the least. But who knows? Maybe they find something in the tank for Dustin May. They got some pitching infrastructure over there in Boston. No idea. For me, I said that the worst trade was Jordan Montgomery and Shelby Miller going to the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't understand why the Brewers decided to make that trade. Just like, you didn't need Jamont. There's already a lot of pitching there. You dealt Nestor Cortez because he was essentially surplus. And instead you take on Jordan Montgomery money when you're a team that has a reputation of not paying money. I'll look it up in a second. I don't actually know how much of the salary that the Brewers are taking on. And then you get Shelby Miller. Like, yeah, he's been a decent reliever this year. But, like, again, it's a strength. You don't need bullpen help if you're the Milwaukee Brewers. They make pitching out of thin air. If anything they needed to add to the lineup, they didn't do that. I mean, they gave up nothing. But I just think it makes zero sense in why they wanted to take on both of those guys. So, yeah, there were other ways to improve. You didn't need a reliever to get better if you're Milwaukee, and yeah, that's my main problem. Just the fact that they were willing to take on a Jordan Montgomery, Shelby Miller, makes no sense. But you can kind of talk about some other stuff. I'm gonna look up how much of the salary they're taking on real quick. Yeah, this is why I said that the Brewers lost the deadline. Like, they just did nothing in my eyes. And they have the best record in baseball. Like, they've just been playing so well. And the fact that they do this at the trade deadline was really sad. Because I kind of like the Brewers. I don't know why. I've always had a soft spot for the Brewers. Went to Milwaukee last summer. It's a great place. Great stadium. And just, come on. Like, yeah, I didn't get it. But I'm going to look it up real quick. How much money do the Brewers take on in the... Because they traded a player to be named later or cash. Okay, so... according to this source, MLB, the Milwaukee Brewers took on at least $2 million of what remains on the left-hander's $22.5 million salary before he reaches free agency, and includes a $500K bonus for the trade, and then additionally they agreed to pay $2.5 million of the remaining salary in place of parting with prospects. So yeah, they're not paying a lot of it now that I think about it, but even still, without the money considered, it's just like there's no reason to make that happen, and they did. Would have rather seen you go get a bat.